I have my Strathmore paper. I have my 24-inch ruler. Okay, 24-inch ruler again is a really helpful pad on the bottom, or I should say the back. Okay, I have some of my graphite pencils here. Again, I do have more graphite pencils. I actually have a lot more. So if you do need some, come to my office. Actually, yeah, you can come to my office by next week if you do need it. If you don't have time to get it this week and you need it for next week, I will be on campus on Monday if you do need some. Okay, but of this week, I won't be on campus this week, unfortunately. I do have some blue painter's tape, my sharpener, as well as my white eraser. And again, my best friend, paper towel. Again, I'm going to do a lot of sharpening. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the side. Again, a good rule of thumb before you start, again, try to keep in mind what you want to do, again, always is to have at least a 1-inch border to have a nice clean drawing to work with. So I'm going to add some blue painter's tape. And again, it doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be 1 inch, could be 2 inch. It could be ½ an inch. I'm just keeping it simple by 1 inch. Again, guys, you have to bear with me. I'm moving a little bit slower because of my lower back. So if I do go too slow, let me know. Or if I go too fast, let me know as well. And then let me do the top. Now, for the sake of the demo, I'm actually gonna move my orientation horizontally. And the reason why is because I'm gonna add a second vanishing point, but I'm actually gonna make my image slightly smaller just for the sake of the demo. But before I do that, let's talk about our graphites. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a scrap sheet of paper. Okay, here's a scrap sheet of paper I'm using. Same Strathmore paper, okay? And the reason why I want to do this is sort of go over each individual grade, meaning the letters on the bottom. Now, a good rule of thumb will be, if you're sort of thinking about what these actual letters mean, the higher the B, the darker, okay? The higher the H, the lighter, okay? And then also the rougher. So let's put this into practice. So for example, zoom in slightly. Let me know, guys, if it's too blurry, if you can't see. So if I take my 6B and just make a small value, that's what I see. So I'll leave that there. Okay. But what happens if, let's say, for example, if I added a 3B? Okay, this is sort of 0, by the way. So it goes 2, 3, 4, 5. These are all Bs from left to right, okay? And then from right to left, same thing. And then I also have the center, which would be HB, okay? So you have 2H, 3H, 4H, 5H, 6H. 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, 6B. I want you guys to start to experiment before you even start your drawing, because you'll understand which one is darker, which one is lighter. That's a 3B. Okay. Take a 2H. Okay. This is where things get interesting. The higher the B, also the softer it is to blend. The higher the H, the rougher it is. If you want to follow along in this process, please do so you'll know exactly what I mean. If you start making a value or just a swatch, it feels a lot more difficult. There's more tension involved. But what do you notice? That high jump beyond from the 6B to the 2H. Let's go to a 6H. And I'm using the same amount of pressure. This is probably the most difficult. The most amount of pressure I'm adding, excuse me, the same amount of pressure, but the most resistance I'm getting. Okay. Now, a rule of thumb would be to what? Always start off with your high H's. Okay, if you want to. You could use a standard 2B, which is a standard number 2 pencil. You don't necessarily have to, but for the sake of the demo, I'll start off with the darker B's because you guys will see it from distance. This is a 4H. Separate those two. And then now let's say, for example, let's use an HB or an H, which probably be in the center, which is a happy medium. Okay. And then this is a 5B. I'm going to add a little bit more pressure just for the sake of the demo. Get a nice soft black. Okay. 4B. I'm adding more pressure, just again, just for exercising. Okay, and then HB. HB is going to be a little bit easier to use than a standard H. Okay, so keep that in mind. I am missing my 5H. I can't find it, but you guys get the idea. Any questions so far? Okay. Again, your guys' silence is, I'm assuming, is everything is good to go. Okay. Now, let's get into the demo. Just erase this. Alrighty. So I have my Strathmore paper ready to go. Let me just align the camera so you guys can see. Now, what I'm gonna do, for the sake of the demo, you could do this as well. I'm gonna use a 6B. The reason why, it's soft and it's really dark, and you guys could be able to see it on this side of the camera, okay? Zoom in slightly. Let's talk about our best friend, our second best friend, the ruler. For the demo, again, I'm just hypothetically, I'm gonna actually put my horizon line probably right in my center. And again, those of you who wanna follow, by all means, do so. So it's right about here, making a horizontal line. Okay. What I'm also going to do, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you were to, this is Levi, by the way. If you were to put the horizon line higher up or further down, that would change like the perspective you're looking at.
Exactly.
Okay. 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 I'm just thinking about my own piece. Cool.
Yeah. That's actually a good question. Thank you for that, Levi. I'm going to take some blue painter's tape. I'm going to make a smaller rectangle just for the sake of the demo. And the reason why is because I'm going to add a second vanishing point on the same horizon line. But in order for me to do that, to sort of showcase where that is, I need to sort of separate the scale and not use the entire sheet of paper. And again, you don't have to do this, the second vanishing point, but it does help. For those of you who do need to use it, for the sake of the demo, I will cover that right now. Just, again, guys, I do apologize. It's my phone. It's not the best quality. Here. Okay. Now, what's really interesting is that from this angle, okay, here's my horizon, right? This is my eye level line. So if I'm looking at a hallway, this is how I would look at a hallway in its relational space. What I need to keep in mind is that, let's say if my vanishing point, I'm not going to put in the center for the sake of the demo, I'm going to put it right here. slightly to the right. What I'm also gonna do, this is where it gets really crucial, is look at all my corners. This is what? What is this called? From the lecture we just discussed. It's my picture plane. This is what Alberti talks about. If I had my drawing, I'm looking through my picture plane, okay, which is the window. I take my ruler, mark it on my vanishing point, hold it from my pencil, go all the way down to the right, the bottom right, and line it up there. That's one. Do the same thing on the others on the top right. Again, just be careful, take your time. Again, those of you who are following along, take your time. Okay, that's two. What about here? If my vanishing point is slightly to the right, that means I'm going to see more of my what? Your left. Let me just add the last one. And guys, let me know if I'm going too fast. Now notice this side is smaller than this side. Because of what? The vanishing point has been moved to slightly to the right. I'm going to add a back wall to this hallway. And I can either calculate, I can say, whether if it's centimeters or inches, I'm going to say 3 inches. Okay. Do the same thing for the top. But before I do, make a vertical line for the wall. And then I like to, instead of doing this, I like to flip my actual ruler. Okay, actually slightly off, but it's okay. But then also now, put 2 upside down and then fill in the top. Now I have a what? A wall. What I'm now going to do, and again, I want you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I'm going to erase what I've done in the beginning. And because I want my wall to be flat, and that's where you can start to see a more 3-dimensional space. Again, ideally you want to use this with a lighter H because you're going to do a lot of erasing. You can still see the remnants of that vanishing point, so it's still there. But what do I have now? I have a wall, I have a floor, wall number 2, which is to the left, which is bigger, and then my ceiling. Did this make sense so far?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. But then now I'm going to take my ruler. I need to find my center, vertical center line. I'm going to go directly over my vanishing point, make a straight line that runs through. Okay. Why would I do this? Now, this is where things get interesting. I can now calculate, and this looks like I'm taking my ruler, and on the bottom, from one corner to the other, it's about 11 inches. I'm going to say, I'm going to say 1 inch. 1 inch each. If you want to make it 2 by 2, you can do that as well. Perfect, lined it exactly on the 7. Okay. I now will take my ruler and mark it on each vanishing point, each set of orthogonal lines. Okay, so let me do that. And I'm gonna take my time, making sure everything's correct, and always making sure my lines are not off my ruler. Again, being mindful, taking my time, don't want to rush this process. I'm adding a set of orthogonal lines as my floor. Oh, I actually went slightly above. Hold on. My ruler was moving. Let me erase this. That little error can throw me off. So I'm going to go back and fix it. Okay, again, you do this in the beginning so you don't encounter that problem in the future. That's better. Want to take your time, add all these orthogonal lines. Notice it gets more and more tricky. Leave that there because that's the middle. Jump to the other side. Sure that's correct. And you always want to also keep your pencil really sharp because it's easier to make these preliminary lines prior before getting into the values. Now I have floor. Take my eraser, erase all this because I don't need it, but I used as a guide. But then now, when I look at how it recedes into that space, I also need to make sure the spacing is correct. It's slightly smaller here, but I need to factor that in. Actually, I can darken that a little bit later on. So then now let's add a door to this side, okay? How do we add a door? Okay, I'm gonna take my ruler on this end, and I'm just gonna say roughly, it's probably about a foot away at that edge of that hallway. Or you know what? I'm going to make this hallway smaller and make it end. So I'm actually going to make this make a vertical line that runs to right about there. Okay. And for the sake of the demo, the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to actually add a hallway at the edge of this wall, or actually at the end of the wall, that now I'm adding a line that continues on. I'm doing the same thing here. Then now I can start erasing this line because this is the edge of that wall. So for example, zoom in. This will be, I'm just going to do this freehand so you guys can get an idea quickly. This wall will be one side. Here on the floor, I left an opening so you can, somebody can walk around and come take a right to that side so that hallway continues. What I also can do is darken that space so you can see it like slightly better. Now, what you can do is now start to separate one wall, 2, 3, ceiling, 4. I'm going to add a door to this side. Take my ruler. And I know intuitively the door is not as tall as the wall, right? So you can say probably right around that height, right? But you could also say, in terms of how it's receding from this orthogonal line to the vanishing point, because all orthogonal lines meet at the vanishing point, I'm going to make the top of the door, again, also meet. Take my ruler. So again, just reminding myself where my vanishing point is. Right about there. Lower. And I'm also going to add another vertical line to showcase the height and the depth. So then now, I'm going to erase this. Okay. But then I also can darken this door. But what did I do? I've now given three-dimensional space from this door to this wall, meaning this door is what? Closest to us. So it's the what? It's the biggest object so far in my space. I'm just coloring this in with some value, so you guys can start to see that from that distance. Did that make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna use my sharpener. Give me 1 second. So now let's look at the opposite wall. My phone, I feel like it's about to fall. The opposite wall. I'm now gonna take my ruler and I want to make a smaller door at the end of this hallway. At the end, because this is where it ends, at this corner. This is the other side of the wall, which is flat, right? Take my ruler, and I'm just gonna, get it right close to that wall. And I'm gonna measure, probably, it could be about 1/2 inch. You can measure the length or the width by all means. But I'm gonna say it's right about there. Take my ruler to the top, add it to the top, and that's the back door of this hallway, or this wall, I should say, excuse me. But then now, let's make it interesting. Let's make a door that goes inside this wall. Okay. If I now take, I'm gonna now also be mindful, because now, what have I noticed? This is at the end. This is what's closer. This is closer to us again. But I want to make something closest on this side of the wall. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to make a small horizontal line that meets here to here, and then do the same thing at this corner, at the corner of my what's it called, door. And that will then indicate that if I was walking physically in this space, right around here is where the next door will be the biggest. Okay, so I'm going to say the biggest, so probably what, right around here. Oh, right there. Okay, now what do you see? 1, 2, 3. But then what happens if I want to make a hallway that goes this way? This is where it gets tricky. Take this line that we made earlier, line it up with your ruler, and make it continue. Bam. Do the same thing here. Always, always keep it straight. This is where it gets crucial. Just, there you go. Now, what happens if I want to continue my orthogonal lines? Let's say if I took my ruler, let's zoom out slightly. So it's off of my picture plane. Remember how we measured these inch by inch, right? If I take my ruler, I'm going to mark 4 and then 3. I can then now, it's off my picture plane, but I'm going to take this mark here, line it up to the ruler, line it up to my vanishing point, add that line in there. Now it's even, meaning it continues, okay? I can erase this. And then now I can also add a door at the end of this wall, because now this is a flat wall. And I'm just, for the sake of the demo. This is sort of the door frame of that door. I'm going to fill this in. Again, I'm using a 6B, really dark. Again, I'm going over my lines, which is okay. You guys get the idea. Clean it up with your eraser. This line here because I don't need it anymore. And now I have the floor that continues, as well as this hallway to the left, this back left wall, this back front wall, a hallway that goes anonymously to the right, and then this right wall. Did that make sense so far? Again, if I'm adjust the camera.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna now talk a little bit about the second vanishing point. Okay, and zoom out. Okay. Now, Bertie says you need a second vanishing point off of your picture plane, off of your picture plane. Remember that. I have that horizontal line. I'm gonna mark it right around here at this edge. Again, just for the sake of the demo, I'm gonna now then add another set of orthogonal lines that meet at all of these corners. So I'm gonna go first here, all the way down here, and I'm actually gonna use a different pencil. I'm gonna use a 5B. It's 1, 2. Just gonna be mindful, I cannot move this vanishing point, meaning don't move from the ruler. 3, 4, going slightly faster. Let me know if I'm going too fast. 5. My paper's moving too much. If you apply enough gravity, it shouldn't move. But it's okay if it does. It's a learning process. Okay. Now, for the sake of the demo, what I'm gonna do now is erase these two because they're not gonna make sense when I add my tiles because they're too wide or too soft, too narrow, or too, I should say too large from the tile. Again, we're gonna do a lot of erasing. I should have erased that before, but it's okay. Some of now the marks I just made are erased, which is all right. What's crucial is that now I can take my ruler. Do you see these corners? This one here, this one here, this one here, that one, that one, that one. I can now take my ruler, and I like to do this upside down, like meaning flipping my ruler, align my ruler to those marks. Okay. So right about here, draw the line. Bam. Do the same thing here, 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 here. Again, it's going to be a little bit tighter because these are smaller tiles, but also a challenge. Okay. Bam. Do the same thing. And then they get denser and denser. So then now I can start what? Filling in my tiles. This is what Alberti is talking about. He says to add a second vanishing point in order to calculate the measurement of not only each tile, but the more and more you add in terms of the perspective, what happens? They get smaller and denser. They recede into the distance. I'm just going every other tile. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Yes, but I do have a question.
go ahead.
So I missed how you got that second vanishing point, like how you determined that.
So what I did, again, I made my drawing smaller, and I think I was
Yeah.
So I use my same horizon to make another vanishing point off my picture plane, which is probably around 4 inches away off my picture plane. It could be closer, could be further away, but I was mindful in terms of the fact that I was making a smaller drawing, so I made it really far away, because then it widens these tiles. Now again, Levi, I calculated these to 1 by 1 inch. You could do 2 inches, right? You could do 2 by 2. You could do 3 by 3. It's really depending on you. This only applies if you have like hardwood floors, floorboards, tiles, any sort of geometric shape on the floor that you want to use, and you want to figure out the correct calculation. This is how you would actually use the system to make the exact measurement. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Intuitively, I would then start to think about, okay, how much tiles do I have? I need to stand in front of my reference, right? I need to, when I'm photographing it, like in front of my hallway, I need to count, okay, how many tiles? Is that 10? Or is that 11 tiles? Or is it 9? And then so on and so forth. You're gonna have something else.
So the closer that second vanishing point to the first one, the less dense the.
Correct. The more small the scale becomes smaller and more narrow. I want to widen them a little bit more, just for the sake of the demo.
Okay, so yeah, if you wanted to like show length through the hallway, you would put that second vanishing point maybe further away.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Again, my hands are slightly dirty because of the graphites, but it's okay. So don't worry about it. It's not as bad as charcoal. I'm going to end the recording and I'm going to go back.